Chapter 3 The Black Crows, 1898 to 1908. Legends aren't born in churches. They're born where gunpowder hangs in the air. By the time Daniel reached his 30s, whispers of his name had begun spreading through saloons across the frontier. During his travels, he crossed paths with 4 men who would forever change his life: Joe Smith, William Murphy, Samuel Grant, Patrick Jones. Each possessed a different talent. William could crack nearly any safe ever built. Patrick never missed with a rifle. Joe could talk his way through almost anything. Samuel Grant was perhaps the only man Daniel ever trusted completely. Together they formed a gang that newspapers would eventually nickname the Black Crows. Their first robbery was a small stagecoach carrying payroll money through the mountains. It went perfectly. Then came another, and another. Within 2 years, they were robbing banks from Montana to Colorado, disappearing into forests before posses could even organize. Daniel refused unnecessary killing. If they reach for iron, they've made their choice. Otherwise, everyone walked away alive. Ironically, that strange code earned them respect from ordinary folk. Many secretly admired the Black Crows for robbing corrupt bankers and wealthy railroad investors while never harming innocent families. The Pinkerton detectives hunted them relentlessly. Every escape became more daring. The stories grew larger every year. But nothing could top the big one, the Beaumont job. By the autumn of 1904, Daniel Colton had become more than an outlaw. He had become a ghost. Whenever a wealthy businessman vanished, whenever payroll disappeared, or whenever a sheriff awoke to find his jail emptied without a single lock broken, one name echoed through saloons across the frontier: Daniel Colton. Then word reached the gang of something almost too unbelievable to ignore. One of St. Denis' wealthiest industrialists, Edmund Beaumont, was hosting an extravagant gala inside his riverside mansion. Politicians, railroad tycoons, bankers, judges, and foreign investors from across the country had all been invited. According to rumor, Beaumont refused to trust banks. Instead, every deed, bond, stack of cash, and gold certificate that represented his fortune rested inside a massive steel safe hidden on the second floor of his mansion. Most men saw an impossible target. Daniel saw the greatest score of his life. For nearly 3 weeks, the gang never discussed the robbery around campfires. They planned it in silence. Samuel Grant spent his evenings posing as a dock worker, watching servants arrive and leave through the rear entrance. Joe Smith charmed bartenders and stable boys until they unknowingly described the mansion's layout room by room. Daniel himself walked past the mansion, never once looking directly at it. People notice a man staring. Nobody notices the man who never does. Every guard change, every lantern lit after sunset, every servant's entrance, every upstairs window. Daniel memorized them all. If everything went according to plan, no one would even know they had been there. The evening finally arrived. Crystal chandeliers bathed the mansion in warm golden light. Ladies wearing silk gowns laughed beneath towering ceilings as servants carried silver trays overflowing with champagne. No one looked twice at the 4 well-dressed gentlemen walking through the front doors. Why would they? The richest people in America rarely questioned another wealthy face. Daniel exchanged polite smiles. Joe accepted a glass of whiskey. Samuel quietly slipped away toward the servants' corridor. William disappeared upstairs. Everything was unfolding exactly as planned. Within minutes, they stood before the enormous steel safe hidden behind Beaumont's private office. William knelt beside the lock. His hands never shook. The safe slowly opened. Inside sat more money than any of them had ever imagined. Then, a single voice shattered the silence. "Who the hell are you?" A young servant stood frozen in the doorway. Nobody moved. The servant turned to run. One gunshot echoed through the mansion. Silence. Then screaming. The ballroom erupted into panic. Champagne glasses exploded across marble floors. Women fled in terror. Daniel knew there was no longer a robbery to finish. Now, it was a fight to survive. Gunfire thundered through the mansion. Bullets ripped through priceless paintings. Crystal chandeliers crashed onto polished floors in showers of glass. William held the grand staircase alone, firing methodically to keep dozens of armed guards from reaching the upper floor. Samuel dragged sacks of stolen valuables through clouds of dust, while Daniel covered every doorway with deadly precision. Outside, the city had awakened. Police whistles screamed through Saint-Denis. More lawmen arrived every minute. There was only one way out. One after another, they leapt from the second-story balcony onto the roof of Beaumont's carriage house below. By sunrise, they were gone. Behind them, they left shattered windows, empty vaults, and one of the richest men in America staring into an open safe. The newspapers called it the Beaumont job, and from that night forward, Daniel Colton was no longer simply one of the West's most wanted outlaw. He was the man bold enough to rob the untouchable. But every legend ends. Greed found Joe Smith long before the law ever did. Offered a full pardon and a fortune, Joe betrayed the gang. Federal marshals surrounded one of their hideouts before sunrise. Gunfire echoed through the valley. William Murphy was captured alive. The rest managed to find an escape. Months later, in 1903, when Daniel was 35 years old, William was publicly executed after refusing to reveal Daniel's location. Patrick Jones escaped the ambush, but was arrested weeks later. Daniel could only watch from behind prison bars as word reached him that Patrick had been hanged. Daniel himself had been sentenced to life imprisonment. Most believed the Black Crows were finished. Samuel Grant disagreed. After months of careful planning, Samuel bribed guards, smuggled weapons inside, and orchestrated one of the boldest prison escapes the territory had ever seen. The explosion that destroyed part of the prison wall became local legend. The explosion did, unfortunately, deal a lot of damage to Daniel. Burn scars across his face were now something he had to live with. Daniel rode into the darkness beside Samuel. The two never spoke of that night again. Everyone believed Daniel Colton had died in prison. He intended to keep it that way.